Valve, one of the greatest PC game developers in the world. Their distribution platform, Steam, is the distribution platform for PC gaming. When you think PC, you think Steam. Valve's been trying to push that recognition out from the PC gaming market and to the casual and console gamer market. At this year's GDC, they announced and showcased a lot of their new hardware as part of what they're calling the Steam Universe. This universe consists of Steam machines, Steam controllers, Steam Link, Steam VR, and the all-encompassing SteamOS. Today I'm going to be talking about the two things that I think are most important to Steam's mission of bringing Steam to console consumers: the Steam machines and SteamOS. This is their attempt at marketing their brand to everyone in the console gaming market, creating something people can go to for reliable PC gaming. One of the biggest challenges for a lot of people trying to enter the PC gaming market is that they don't know what the best thing to get is. By Valve slapping the Steam brand name onto a bunch of tech, it makes it easier for people to look at it and go, that's the Steam machine, I want that one. It's worked for Apple so far. You can just slap the Apple logo onto a coffee mug and give it a $200 markup and people buy the damn thing. First off, the Steam machines, which are probably the most important things to do with all of this Steam Universe malarkey. For the longest time, the only reason the console players stuck to consoles was because building a PC is a daunting task. The idea of building your own PC is a scary and costly thing to do for a lot of people, so buying a $400 box that just plays the games is all you really need. With the Steam machines, people don't have to worry about that. The system is already finished for them, and they can just put it in the same room as their consoles. They don't need to feel like a NEET in their cave whenever they start up Skyrim to do an adventure. How much does it cost to get your hands on a Steam machine? Well, the prices vary from $459 US to $4,999 US. Why? I'd argue that's a ridiculous range, but most systems nowadays that PC gamers already own have about the same price range. You've either got a TI-82 or the Monolith from 2001. The cheapest Steam machine that will be available to purchase so far is the iBuyPower SPX for $459 US. This includes an AMD Athlon X4 840, an ATI Radeon R7 250X with 1GB of GDDR5 VRAM, 4GB of RAM from an unspecified manufacturer, and a 500GB hard disk drive from an unspecified manufacturer. These are terrible specs for any machine to have and barely meet the limitations of most AAA games put out since 2012. At the lower price, what can you expect? But the Alienware Steam Machine A costs $20 more and has vastly more powerful components in it. The most expensive Steam machine is the Falcon Northwest Tiki for $4,999 US. This is a customizable system that includes some really beefy components and it better at that fucking price. It includes great features such as an Intel CPU up to and including the i7-4790K, a GTX 900 series GPU including the Titan and Titan Z, up to 16GB of DDR3 1886 MHz RAM, up to 8TB of SSD or SSDs and a standard hard disk drive, liquid cooling for the CPU, and it can be overclocked. The issue with this machine, though, is that most people aren't going to be willing to buy something this expensive for their hobby, especially if they're a casual or console consumer, which these machines are being marketed to. PC gaming enthusiasts are the only people that would spend this much money, and they'd be spending it on building their own machine for cheaper, not buying an overpriced, pre-built machine. Strangely enough, even some of the cheap ones are overpriced for what they are. The Gigabyte Brix Pro costs $599 US and has worse specs than the iBuyPower SPX. The Brix Pro includes, and I'm not even joking, an i7-4770R, integrated graphics, an unspecified amount of DDR3 1660 MHz RAM, and an unspecified SSD HDD hybrid drive. No dedicated graphics card, and you don't even know the amount of RAM. The Brix is even touted as a do-it-yourself system, which defeats the whole purpose of the Steam machines. Steam machines are supposed to be the antithesis of do-it-yourself. This whole scheme of the Steam machines doesn't even make sense. If you understood everything I just listed about computer parts, that's great. Although, it probably means you're already a PC gamer and won't bother buying one of these machines. For the average consumer, especially console players, they don't want to know what an i7 is or 1600 MHz of RAM. They don't need to know what that is. There needs to be a rating system that answers questions for the average consumer. Can it play Dota 2 at 60 FPS? Can it run Crysis 3? Without that, this thing is going to fail and only alienate gamers further. Now, as many problems as there are with the Steam machines right now, there's still the problem of the SteamOS. It's probably the most problematic thing with this whole Steam universe. With Steam's massive library of games, the idea of a Steam-focused OS would be a genius idea. The problem is, though, that since it's based on Linux, very few AAA games actually support it. A lot of indie games do, which is good since indie developers are making the best couch co-op games right now, but that's not important to console gamers. Targeting the people that want the Xbone and PS4 isn't good when the most popular games on the other consoles don't work on their new Steam machine. None of the Call of Duties and none of the Assassin's Creeds work on Linux or SteamOS. That will be a major deciding factor for a lot of people looking for an alternative to the PS4 and Xbox One. The SteamOS pushes away a lot of things that is great about PC gaming as well. Think about it, when you think of PC gaming, what do you actually see in your head?
Can we play the game?
Okay, well, I think of modding. Yeah, that's the big thing that differentiates the two. As far as we're aware, modding games on SteamOS is going to be tough. It will most likely rely on the Steam Workshop, but the number of games that have it and can actually support it is very limited. As well, a lot of useful configuration mods can't launch on the Steam Workshop since they edit critical game files. And I think most importantly, performance is more than lackluster on SteamOS when compared to Windows. Even games developed by Valve themselves don't run well on SteamOS. When you compare SteamOS to Windows, it's worse than mediocre. But when you compare it to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One software, it seems pretty amazing. The friend system is managed better, it's much more focused on the games than the individual apps, the downloads are much easier to manage, and it has a much bigger library of games, even with the limitations of Linux. Then there's the actual service, Steam, that all of these things depend on. Steam's always had a lot of problems, mostly in the customer service department. The customer support is pretty bad for the most part. They handle a lot of things fairly well, but the speed and consistency isn't going to be acceptable for a lot of average consumers out there. The idea of having to wait up to a week for a response is ludicrous for people already, so imagine what will happen when the moms of the world try using it. And what about the Steam machines? Are we going to have to call the individual manufacturers for support? Or will we be able to just contact Steam for support? With the lack of a refund system, Valve's going to see a lot of problems. It's not entirely Valve's fault though. Not a lot of digital distributors have any sort of return system. But Xbox and PS4 don't see a lot of digital sales. They get mostly physical discs that can always be returned to the game store that they were purchased from. The Steam machines are going to contain 100% downloaded titles only. That's going to be a problem for people that want to return their games once they're done with them. They're forced to keep them, and that's a new thing for a lot of people that play console games, and isn't going to be something they'll just accept blindly. Steam isn't ready to become mainstream, and until Valve can create some sort of way of making all games work on SteamOS, or at least a decent amount of them, this isn't going to work. A lot of the popular games console gamers tend to enjoy aren't available to be played on the Steam machines, so there's really no incentive to buy a more expensive machine that can't play the games that they already play. It'll be interesting to see where Valve goes with this whole Steam universe, but mostly I'm interested if the Steam machine flops or not. I, for one, welcome the
filthy casuals that will be joining the glorious PC gaming master race.
And I hope to see PC gaming get more love from AAA developers. Before I go, a little food for thought. Whenever new hardware comes out, the developers always have to release or announce a new game that will push sales to go with it. Sony had Killzone, Microsoft had Dead Rising 3. What's Valve gonna have? I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who thought I was funny enough or interesting enough or whatever to subscribe to my channel and help me get to 100 plus subscribers. That is amazing, and thank you so much!